This week, Sharon and I were invited to go see a Jewish comedian named Modi. All right, one person knows him. Okay, Mayor. Mayor's a ringer. Anyone else ever hear of Modi? Okay, a few of you. All right, Rachel too. All right, few Modi fans. All right, I saw you guys there, so I don't know. He's a, how do we put it, like a very Jewy comedian. Just very Jewish. And his comedy is just so fun. He has this shtick, which you might have seen on TikTok or YouTube or I don't know, something. And he explains the difference between Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jews. Right? Sephardi Jews come up and say, Shabbat Shalom! Yeah, you can do it. Yeah. All right, after like another few weeks, you'll get it. Anyway, the Ashkenazi Jews, good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos. He does it for Aliyot too, it's great. The Sephardic Jews, Chazak u'baruch, may you be strong and blessed. They're kissing each other. No, that's not even that good. Shkoyach, shkoyach, shkoyach. No one goes over, no one says anything. I've decided that after Shabbat is over, I'll be filling out all the necessary paperwork to officially become a Sephardic Jew. I'm very excited. And I'm going to suggest that all of you bring in some of that energy. You don't even have to do the forms. You can just do it. I laughed very hard at this show this week. Hal and Sandy and I were at the same showing. I wouldn't say he was perfect. He did lean a little bit into some stereotypes. And my Sharon was very on the slightly misogynistic elements. But leaving those aside, he made me laugh. And it's just good to laugh. We need that. It was just good for my soul, for my neshama. He did one shtick about a Shabbat elevator. Who is ever familiar with the Shabbat elevator? Okay, so this won't even be necessary to explain. What is a Shabbat elevator? Yeah, Elizabeth, what is it? It's in a tall building. Okay, so there's an elevator in a tall building, although it could be any building, and observant Jews want this elevator because it stops at every floor automatically. So he tries explaining this to someone who's not Jewish. You can't work on Shabbat, so electricity is like work, and pressing a button is like work, so you can't press a button, so you can't take the elevator. But if you take a Shabbat elevator, it can go in. But anyway, it was hilarious, and I was totally cracking up. You guys will maybe just watch him do it, and it's funnier. The image of the elevator just going up and down and up and down, up and down, of course, reminded me of Moses in this week's Parashah going up and down and up and down. And yes, that is my segue. Sometimes you just got to take what comes to you. While there's, of course, no electricity, if you read it over the last month, like Moses is on some kind of Ferris wheel being run by some overzealous teenager. I'm done. Up and down he goes in last month's Parashah Yitro at Sinai, 5 or 6 times. And it continues this morning. And like the questions that Rosa asked in her Dvar Torah, the question is, why? Why wouldn't he just go up? Once, get the 10 Commandments, comes down. Why is he schlepping? My rabbinical school classmates really appreciated bad jokes. And one of them I asked recently, they're like, well, Moses needed a step, so that wasn't mine, so I'm not going to take anything on that. The Israelites, in one of the moments, are actually very afraid. They see all the pyrotechnics going on in Mount Sinai, and they are moving away from the mountain, and they tell Moses, you go up, you go and speak, and we'll listen to you, because otherwise we're going to die. It's my last one. It's like, you go. No, you go. It's fine. Richard Lewis passed away this week, so, Larry David's good friend, so I figured, no, you go. All right, that's the last one, Hal. I'm going to move to a more serious place. This morning, we read in the Parashah, as Rosa described, that everything comes crashing down. After the idolatrous deeds of building the golden calf, it's all over. The tablets etched in stone by the divine, they're smashed at the bottom of the mountain. This is it. This is the moment. You can't get any more intense. This is the moment of revelation. This is the closest moment between the Jewish people and God. Smashes. It all falls apart. The Torah is teaching us something fundamental, that it places this moment at Sinai. Nothing is perfect in our world. Even when everything seems right, there is a fundamental brokenness that permeates existence. Everything can shatter, even at Sinai. But of course, the story doesn't end there. Moses then ascends again, and what does he do? The people are going to be punished, and Moses says to God, take me. I'll sacrifice my own life to save the people. And that's the moment that we begin to have repair. That's the moment where there's this beginning of transformation. Our great Hasidic master, Reb Nachman of Bratslav in the 18th century said, if you believe that it's possible to break, then it's possible also to have repair. Brokenness is everywhere, and we experience it. It's in the destruction of our natural world. It's in the threats of war and actual wars. We feel it very intensely as Jews, experiencing anti-Semitism at unprecedented levels. Of course, in the tragedy of October 7th, which I saw with my own eyes. We see it in acts of vandalism, acts of swastikas drawn on our schools. And of course, we see it in the terrible suffering of the innocents in Gaza and in our hostages. Unimaginable suffering. We see it in the virulence on college campuses, which our students tell me about. All of this wears us down. It impacts our relationships, our own souls, our neshamot. So let's go back to the Torah. Before Moses can ascend for the 8th and final time, the text shifts, and you almost don't notice it because you're still at Sinai, but suddenly the camera's not looking at Sinai. It pans over here to the side. There's a little tent right over here. And apparently, this is where Moshe goes. This is where he goes to have his moments where he communes with the Almighty. He sometimes comes off the mountain and goes into this little tent. And the Israelites say something really interesting, or the text says about them. It says that they are all get up when he leaves the camp, stand up, hibitu acharei Moshe. They watch after Moses as he goes into this little tent. And they gaze at him, it says. And Rashi, our great 11th century French commentator who likes to quote from the rabbis of a millennia before, he quotes them from the Midrash and the Talmud, saying that the Israelites at this moment, even though things are ruptured, they're no longer holding the same anger. Maybe they heard Moshe interceded on their behalf. They're no longer focused on the rupture of their relationship between themselves and God, no longer on the rupture of the relationship between Moses and God. They're looking after him, and they say, according to the Midrash with admiration, Happy is the human being who feels that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, will come into their tent. They don't get stuck in the messiness of our world. They appreciate the little joy of just watching Moshe go into his tent. They become happy. They're like the original Sephardic Jews, and since they're from the Middle East and the Mediterranean, they are actually Sephardic Jews. They take this moment and they become happy amidst the brokenness. And then after this small interregnum, this little pause in the action, Moses then has this intimate conversation with God over here. And he asks to see God's kavod. Not exactly sure how to translate it, God's presence. He asks to see God's presence, and God accedes to Moses' request. God says that you will get to see my tuvi, my tov, my essential goodness. But of course, you can't see my face. So how does this work? Moshe goes and stands behind a rock, and then God puts him into the crevice, into the cleft in the rock. And then God passes by, and Moshe can see God's back. That's what Moshe sees, God's back. So, why is he placed into the crevice of this rock? There's a simple answer. Because safety. He wants to be in a safe place. God puts him, makes sure he's not going to get overwhelmed. He's protected by this overwhelming energy of divine power and divine light that is simply too much for a human being. This light could overwhelm Moshe or even kill him. But there's something else. What exactly is the cleft of the rock? The Hebrew is Nikrat Hatzor. And I never really thought about what it is. How is a cleft, a crevice in a rock made? So I go look it up, and it turns out that science explains when there's extreme pressure on a rock for a long time, caused by weight or water or other materials, it finds some small, tiny fissure in the rock, and it cracks open. The pressure makes this crack. And so Moshe, we can see, is in a place of extreme stress, the burdens of the people. He sees what's going on in the world. He sees that brokenness. And he's there. And it's in that place, and in that place alone, that he sees God's kavod. Then he sees God's presence. Not God, but where God was. God's wake. And after this, then, and only then, can Moses ascend Mount Sinai for the final time and carve the second set of tablets that were shattered to replace the first that were shattered. There's something so powerful about this moment. You see both the distance and the closeness. You can feel the brokenness and the wholeness all in this moment. It's only when we go into that crevice, when we go into that pressured place, that we can get these glimpses of the divine. 3 moments stand out in the narrative that I'd like you to take with you. 1, Moses' deep concern for the people, he'll give up his own life. 2, that the Israelites shift in their attitude, so important. They see Moshe's virtue. And finally, go into the cracks. And in those places, you can see God in the world. That's the deepest spiritual place. Going into the crevices in the world and in ourselves. Friends, as we all know, this is a moment in history like this morning's Parashah. It is a moment of deep rupture that we are living through, a shattering of worlds. But as our Hasidic masters teach, every moment contains the beginning of the tikkun, of the repair, of the renewal, of the healing. We come together today and we can see glimmers of hope. And then it's from this shattered world that we can find some goodness. The ups and downs of life, not a Shabbos elevator, but something much, much deeper and much higher. Shabbat Shalom.